of 7 shillings and 10 cents on petrol, 9 shillings and 90 cents on diesel, and 11 shillings and 36 cents on kerosene. Lawmakers want the Cabinet Secretaries for Petroleum and Energy to explain why the subsidies were stopped.
In its latest review of fuel prices, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, removed the subsidies of 7 shillings and 10 cents on petrol, 9 shillings and 90 cents on diesel, and 11 shillings and 36 cents on kerosene. Lawmakers want the Cabinet Secretaries for Petroleum and Energy to explain why the subsidies were stopped.
That subsidy is not necessarily sustainable because it relies on income from the fuel levy. And if you keep the prices suppressed, then obviously there's no income. And my considered opinion is that that fuel levy has now run out and the prices have to revert back to the original pricing formula.
The fuel subsidy kept diesel and kerosene prices unchanged since April at 107 shillings and 66 cents and 97 shillings and 85 cents a litre, while petrol had remained unchanged at 127 shillings and 14 cents since June.
The pricing formula that is being used now in terms of trying to put subsidies, in my view, is not sustainable in the long term, especially if the prices continue going up and the government doesn't have enough revenue to be able to sustain the subsidy.
And even as the members of parliament go head-to-head with the cabinet secretaries, the question remains, who will bail out Kenyans from the miasma of high fuel prices?
Almost 50% of the value of fuel is as a result of levies and taxes. If you reduce a lot of the levies and modify the taxes, you will actually find that the fuel cost in Kenya would be cheaper than in Uganda and Rwanda. But at the moment, because of the additional loading of levies on the fuel, the price is much higher. Now, why is the price that high? It's because the government, the executive, requires income from some source. But that income is required to fund something else. So the legislature is also increasing a lot of the costs of the legislature itself. So the issue of pensions going up, the issue of salaries going up, the issue of allowances going up, the number of sittings, etc., all that is funded from the government.
Brenda Kerubo, KTN News.
And indeed, that story shapes our conversation this morning. Again, I'm about to have with the Member of Parliament for Dagoretti North, that is Simba Arati. Mheshimiwa, thank you so much. Good morning and thank you for joining us on News Center.
Morning, Mariga. Thank you for inviting me to this morning show here.
Absolutely. Now, fuel prices, it has been on the mouths of many, and it is already, I mean, the Kenyans are already feeling the effects of these high fuel prices. Your entry is among them stopping the implementation of the Finance Act of 2018 and Tax Laws Amendment Act of 2020, among others. How will this cushion Kenyans, one may ask?
Mariga, it's true. If you realize that purely like my constituency where I represent, I've realized that in the past 2 weeks, there's been an outcry, especially for those people who have borders or running border business. As well, the people who are using kerosene in their houses. But notwithstanding, what has happened, my adjournment motion movement today is to enable members of parliament to deliberate on this particular law, which we passed 2018 in parliament. Therefore, basically, it's not that we are amending it today. What we are doing is that we're having a discussion. Therefore, the amendment will come before the Committee of Finance, which we expect that it will be expedited before time runs out to caution the Kenyans against these high rise. And you've realized that these prices have been rising every 13 dates of every month. You will hear there is an announcement from IBRA, either on reduction or increase, but this round, they did an abnormal increase.
Mheshimiwa, then Kenyans have been wondering and asking, before you even got here, how then did you as legislators allow us to get here by not putting these cushions in place way later in the way, or rather earlier on in the way of proper legislation to cushion us and to cushion Kenyans from getting to this point?
Mariga, let us agree, all of us, that Corona has ravaged the country badly.
Yeah.
Indeed, we expected that by the time the law was being passed in Parliament, our objection, and we were featuring, and an involvement which was growing. The economic bit of it, GBD, was going up. We expected that the government could correct. Rightly, there is a speaker who spoke before, I think in your news,
Yeah.
that how does the government correct its revenue? It's from its own citizen, from taxes. But then we anticipated that the economy will grow. But Corona, you've realized that Corona came in, has stalled all worldwide business. It's not exceptional with our economy too. Therefore, things are bad than even we expected, given that we had also a limping economy. We regret, of course, all of us. We did not do it that we, to burden any Kenyan when we did this law 2018.
Mheshimiwa, then, over the weekend we did hear the Speaker of the National Assembly, that is Justin Muturi, saying that legislators bring the bills in Parliament and he will approve them. Are you confident that these bills and motions that you're about to, that you've embarked on as your entry will be, accepted or even go through in an attempt to cushion the country?
Mariga, one, that's the right way. There is nowhere else we could, help the Kenyans. The talkings in train roads, in political rallies can't help, except if we bring them on the floor of the House, as through the form of bills. Mariga, even I saw it, a group of my colleagues, cascading and inciting Kenyans, that is the Kieleweke side of the Parliament, who passed those laws. But I want to remind you, then there was nothing like Kieleweke or Tangatanga. The gentlemen who were in charge of those committees, Adan Duare was the leader majority. Mheshimiwa Limo was in charge of finance. Mheshimiwa Ichungwa was in charge of budget. These are the people, if indeed there is a blame, therefore, who brought that act and the law to be passed in Parliament. These are the people to be blamed. But as usual, they started playing politics. This is something that we cannot try to play politics with. It's touching people's lives. Therefore, me, I'm awful out of goodwill of the Kenyans gave us to represent them in Parliament. We're going to do the right thing by suspending the law and help the Kenyans over the hard times that we are going through.
Now, these, as legislators, perhaps, well, while you are, confident in saying that you hope that your duty, your role will be able to save Kenyans, how then shall we ensure that next time we don't find ourselves in such a similar situation?
Mariga, we do these laws, they are not cast on stone. They can be changed at any given time when we feel that the society is not ready to move on with the laws that we are doing. And these ones actually shows clearly. It shows clearly even the Constitution itself. When we find that the Constitution is not fitting the times that we are in, we need to look for a way to go around it so that the Kenyans can feel they are protected with the same laws that we are doing. Therefore, we are not going to stop making many other laws. We are not going to stop as Parliament to come up with laws for people, for citizens, to contribute for the development of the country. Because we are not expecting to get any money from anywhere else. The monies that we are getting, we get them from the pockets of the common mwananchi through taxes. Therefore, the issues is that we must be objective also. And I believe that by the time we were doing these things, we didn't foresee Corona coming. You'll agree with me that Corona has, brought many countries back, down to their knees. Now that we are trying to even move on, is a worldwide pandemic.
Mheshimiwa, now the value-added tax bill was enacted in 2013, but it was not implemented until 2018, when an initial 3-year extension period and a further 2-year extension lapsed. And then now, at the beginning of September 2018, the KRA issued a press statement confirming that 16% VAT would be applied beginning of that month, that is September of 2018. We have seen, well, perhaps while we did not expect the COVID-19 pandemic, and it is a pandemic, nobody had anticipated for it, but clearly the question still begs, because then how will you be able to even convince Kenyans that even as you do this, it's not just a political gimmick, if you could call it, perhaps because as we approach we are nearing the election next year, we are sort of 11 months away. Isn't this an attempt to sort of perhaps gain the political latitude that legislators need at such a time, and then we will then go back to higher, legislation again that will pass VAT and other taxes that will be imposed on Kenyans?
Mariga, let us be sincere. The country is in bad shape in terms of managing the pandemic itself, which has burdened every Kenyan, including ourselves. We're not optionals in terms of the pandemic. Therefore, what we are saying is that we are sincere with suspension of this law at the moment, as well, looking into it. How possible is it, even if it's after elections? Because another thing, Mariga, you'll agree with me. Let us assume we have scrapped all the taxes around.
Yeah.
Where will be money gotten from for running of the government? Including myself, who earns some extra money, and I'm taxed as it is by the law. Therefore, Mariga, what I want to say is that we are sincere, and we present those people. I present my people. I feel for them. When I see all the young boys in my constituency, they can't, even people they have opted not to ride now on borders, they are walking. Next week, you will hear a lot of robberies all over simply because those boys, they don't have anything to do. The only thing is that they must rob for them to survive. Therefore, we are sincere with what we want to do and deal with in terms of suspending this particular law.
Mheshimiwa, now this suspension that you will be presenting to the floor of the House and, rallying perhaps members of Parliament, your colleagues, have any, even perhaps on the sidelines of it all, have any expressed 100% willingness to support you and to just ensure that all this is, that to support this initiative where you say you're trying to caution Kenyans? Are you receiving, fellow colleagues, members' support?
This is the time that it calls for every member of Parliament to be conscious of what is happening in the country. And I'm sure you will see in the afternoon, almost every member of Parliament will support the adjournment motion that I'm going to table before the House. For the discussion.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. That has been Simba Arati, the Member of Parliament for Dagoretti North. Thank you, sir, for making time for us on News Center.
Thank you, Mr. Mariga.
Great. Now to some politics, and Isiolo woman representative Rehema Dida-Jaldesa has warned members of pastoralist communities against allowing politicians to divide them through the formation of political parties that are not inclusive. The woman rep, who was speaking during a fundraiser in Isiolo town, termed the Upya movement, which was recently unveiled by a section of political leaders from the northern Kenya, as divisive, arguing that